Good morning, Gamecock fans. Today is Wednesday, June 4th, the year of our Lord 2025. Welcome into coffee. Certainly happy that all of you decided to join me this fine Wednesday morning. It's Wide Open Wednesday on the Chief Sports Network. That means our live shows, Inside the Gamecocks, the show, Inside the Gamecocks, the morning show. We got the Nana's Porch chat box wide open. It's typically reserved for Club Chief members. You can join Club Chief right here on YouTube. $4.99 a month gets you access to that and some other perks. But on Wednesdays, we do Wide Open Wednesdays, especially during the off season, where all of you can interact with us. Mike Morgan will be in to co-host with JB for the morning show. And then Alex Jones has to go to a camp out at Carolina on Thursday. So he's not going to be able to join us for Smorgasbord Thursday. So we bumped that back to Wednesday. Also bumped back the late night Gamecock show last night. It is archived and ready to go right here on the Chief Sports South Carolina YouTube page. Be sure to check that out. Also, JC and Morgan yesterday, a good conversation with Michael Bratton of that SEC podcast. SEC Mike always has some interesting takes on the league and talked about South Carolina a little bit. Certainly a conversation worth listening to. That's JC and Morgan. You can get that right here on Chief Sports South Carolina YouTube or College Football Forever Chief YouTube. I think that's it for the morning announcements. How about that? Recruiting. Love that we have a June, or at least we still have a month where we can dig in on high school recruiting. I've been saying that all week. I've been really fired up, pumped up about covering it and getting into the weeds. Used to do it 365 days a year, but things change. Things change in the media. They change in college football. If you don't adapt, you die. And so, we've adapted to all of this. But as the returns continue to come in, and I want to let you know that if you're not a Big Spur member, thebigspur.com, Hale McGranahan has some one-on-one interviews with just about everybody that visited. Amari Thomas, he interviewed Travis Johnson's mom, who has some ties to South Carolina. Very interesting comments from her. Carter Meadows and JB Shabazz are all over social media with some pretty cool pictures from the visits. I kind of feel, based on feedback and reading the tea leaves a little bit, like Carolina's got a pretty realistic shot to land another top defensive end from DC and Carter Meadows. That competition is stiff, just like everybody else. But you got the last two national champs and Penn State. That's that's a road full of potholes right there. But Carolina, I've said it. We said it yesterday, talking about the Chesapeake Project. They're the closest SEC team to a lot of these players in that area. And with Carter Meadows, they're the only SEC team. Now, you have the narrative around college football. The Big Ten's somehow better. So maybe that doesn't work as well anymore. But, I think the coaching staff in football does a great job. But keep in mind, they usually bat about 500 with summer visits, so half. And if you get back to half, that's a good deal. A lot of smaller groups coming in this year, to a certain extent, but a lot of quality. There's a lot of quality last weekend, and there'll be a lot of quality this weekend. And we're going to touch on this coming weekend here in a few. Crystal ball predictions. I'm probably going to drop a few today just to let you know. Some of the potential crystal ball drops have been some others have made. Tamarian Watkins, who kind of, in my personal opinion, somebody asked me who the most important recruit was, and I looked at it and kind of thought, well, that's a loaded question, because how do you, the quarterback's usually the most important recruit every year, because if you don't have one of those, everything else doesn't matter a whole lot. You're going to struggle. You may win some, but you're going to struggle. But and you're not going to win a championship. That should be the blue chip ratio, by the way. It has nothing to do with recruiter. If you don't have a good quarterback, you're not winning a national championship. That's true in pro football too, though there have been times, Trent Dilfer's team that won it all, Brad Johnson's team that won it all, the Bucks, and I believe the Ravens not necessarily the best. They're not mentioned amongst the best in the NFL, but that's few. That's rare, especially these days. But so that's a loaded question. It's probably always going to be the quarterback, or maybe it'll be like a position in need. So what I did was I kind of went the other way and said, well, who would sting the most if Carolina lost them, like if they went out of state? And I said Tamarian Watkins. And I've mentioned a couple of times that some of the feedback I've been getting is he may be the best prospect in the state this cycle. Yeah, and this is not my opinion. This is the opinion of others who've gone out and evaluated them both. I mean, there's schools that absolutely love him. There's schools that want to play linebacker, and that's possible. Like I said, I heard the same thing about Nick Eamon-Warray, but I don't know that I have as much skepticism about the possibilities of being a linebacker with Tamarian as I did with Nick. But then again, I haven't really watched Tamarian and his ball skills and coverage ability. Nick Eamon-Warray, as big as he was out of high school, he could cover like a corner in camp. That's why they loved him. I don't know, I don't know either way with Tamarian, but he's really good. And so being from Rock Hill, being from Northwestern, being a defensive back, for now, you sort of look at it and go, that would sting. And they've led with him for a long time, and they continue to lead. He went to Miami. Miami's going to shoot their shot. It's kind of what they do. Georgia, Texas A&M are lingering. Georgia's probably right up there too. You never know. I mean, the Dogs can recruit. They landed Minka Fitzpatrick's brother out of South Florida yesterday. Kirby's. I mean, they're Georgia. They're still recruiting at a high level. But with Tamarian, I'm probably close to dropping the crystal ball, but I'm going to sweat it just because that's just me. And I said he was the most important recruit to me personally. Now, you guys may have a different opinion, and that's absolutely okay. So, it's kind of my personal deal there with him. Sequel Patterson's a possibility. Shabazz is a possibility. You just never know. I'm gonna release those later today. Most likely, I did snuck one in last night for KJ Johnson, the 6'2.5" corner nickel from Birmingham Woodlawn. He will visit West Virginia, Mississippi State, Ole Miss as of now, but I feel pretty confident about him. Torian Gray has done an excellent job with KJ. So another big weekend this weekend, and then a week off from visits, and a huge weekend on the 20th. And did want to invite everyone out there to join all of us, me and some of my friends and some players and a lot of great Gamecock fans for the wing eating contest, third annual wing eating contest. We did two of them in 2023 with Carolina Rise when we had Carolina Rise, one in Columbia, one in Charleston. Everybody had a great time. Last year, with Garnet Trust and CB90 and CB18, it kind of morphed into something a little different, but still a wing eating contest nonetheless. Vershawn Lee and Ja'Kai Moore, the two Northern Virginia offensive linemen, had won the back-to-back. Vershawn won two in 2023, and then in 2024, Ja'Kai won it. Had a blast. Cornbread Cowboy was out there. Cox by 90, Jeff is putting this on along with Cocky Hospitality. Please go follow them on social media to keep up with what's happening in Columbia and Charleston. But it's a free event. You don't have to RSVP. You can just show up. CB18 Bar and Grill. That's right there where Dr. Rocco's used to be in 5 Points from 4 to 8 p.m. on Saturday, June 21st. Wife will be there with me. It'll be a big time. A big time at the wing eating contest. I look forward to this every single year, and certainly fired up about it. If you have a business and want to sponsor, get in touch with me, jcshurburtt@gmail.com, and I could put you in touch with the Cocky Hospitality people who are handling all of that for us. So really fired up about heading back to Columbia on that weekend. And there'll be a lot of talent in town. 5-star Darius Gray is coming in, offensive lineman that weekend, and many others. We will certainly go through that's a little larger group coming in. But first things first is this weekend. And, unlike last weekend where, Matt Anderson called it moving day, in other words, a lot of players that I don't necessarily know that South Carolina led for going in, it was more in the mix. And all of them were a little mostly wide open kind of players. And so, it's not like, Carolina was down the list. It's just, you don't know. I mean, it was a kind of a study in the unknown. But Carolina made significant moves with just about every one of them. Now, as I said, can you hold? Will it hold? Who knows? Some of these guys are just starting out with their visits, and I mentioned Carter Meadows and his visits coming up. I talked about Curry Adams yesterday. Got a lot of. I mean, you've got a gauntlet of visits coming up with all these guys. But I think it was a successful weekend that will bear fruit. How about that? Well, this weekend it's more of a group that you would classify either as leans to South Carolina and there's some commitments. And I'll just go through it. First, start with Landon Duckworth. Obviously, a lot of news about him lately coming out. Crystal Ball, the quarterback target in this class. Visited Auburn a couple of weeks ago. I just don't know. I don't know that with Deuce Knight there that all, but never rule Auburn out with an in-state guy. I do want to be clear about that. But, the feel here is still crystal balls on South Carolina and for him to kind of rejoin the group. And I'm not the only one that's put a crystal ball in on that end. So that's kind of the consensus right now. Aiden and Andrew Harris have told Phil Kornblut from Sports Talk that they know where they're going. I feel pretty good about South Carolina there. Now, Aiden is a defensive tackle, so that'll make people happy. 4-star guy from Myers Park in Charlotte. Andrew's kind of an outside linebacker, edge type. And so I feel good about Carolina getting both of those. Those are all crystal ball picks. Zion Giles is in, one of the most highly rated offensive linemen in the state. I think he's the number one in the state. Also, a really good prospect. A lot of upside and potential there from Carver's Bay, home of Clifton Gathers. It's always nice to get Carver's Bay players, I think. And this may be the first time, I think, since I've been doing it, that last name hasn't been Gathers, a prospect out of Carver's Bay. So it's he's going to be one to look out for. I mean, probably not 2026, 2027, maybe by 2028, he's going to be pretty good. Noah Clark, big defensive tackle from Durham, Jordan, and North Carolina, D-line heaven. This is a guy a lot of our recruitniks that listen to the show and everybody on the Big Spur that loves recruiting, they really like it. And here's the thing is that he's different. He's already 315. He's a big kid. And Carolina likes to have versatile D tackles that can kind of do, they can play the athletic role like TJ Sanders would be the prototype that they prefer, but you do need different guys. And hey, if you can get a guy that's 315 that has the athleticism, like a guy that kind of has a skill set like DeAndre Jules did. And I still hate that he got hurt last year. I kind of wish maybe it would have happened after 4 games. He would have been back. That would have been huge. But really appreciated the way he played the position. And he was that bigger type guy. So like Noah Clark is in that mix. North Carolina defensive tackle, yet again, the number 126 player in the country per 24/7 Sports. So that's a top 120, 130 guy at D tackle. Aiden Harris fits the same mold. So if you can get both, you can get both. Now, NC State, South Carolina, that's kind of the feel there. That's the feel for the Harris kids too, but also Notre Dame lurks with him. And we saw this with Rodney Dunham. It hadn't been up there. Everything goes up there. And, things happen. It's Notre Dame. But kind of talking to some folks and reading some things, it does kind of feel like he may not venture too far from home. And that would obviously, favor South Carolina or North Carolina State. So the question, if it comes down to those two, is how much of a homebody is he really? Like, are we talking a couple hours is okay? Are we talking, Raleigh as far as he wants to go? Because Raleigh's right there in Durham. But Travian Robertson's done a good job with him, regardless of the outcome. I think, anytime one of the better D tackles in the country and he's out of state, you start talking about being in the top two or three. That's good. That means you can recruit. Kamari Blair is an offensive tackle from Clarksville, Tennessee, that sort of has blown up this spring. He's visiting a lot of schools. South Carolina's going to get him in and shoot their shot. He's more like some of the kids that visited last weekend. You just don't know. I, South Carolina has a couple players for Tennessee on the roster. Max Kelly, the kicker, they got out of high school. Then Rodney Newsome, he's from Memphis. Clarksville, of course, is where you take the last train to. No, just kidding. It's Austin P is in Clarksville. It's between coming in from Kentucky down I-24. There's a big Army base there, Fort Campbell. That's Clarksville, Tennessee. It's kind of a Nashville suburb, but not. Montgomery County is what it is. But Nashville area guy, Kamari Blair, looks good to me. But shoot your shot and go. Joel Combe is a safety for Marietta Kell. Somebody that's kind of below the radar, but I think he's a really good player. I think he's also the type, when we talk about tiers from the state of Georgia, he's that next tier, right below the gear the guys Georgia's offering, which that tier has shrunk as Kirby Smart has been at Georgia, because they end up taking, I mean, they take less in-state number-wise. I didn't know that they should have done that when he started, but I actually think it's the best move, because Mark Richt, when he was there, would normally take, who they considered to be, they would they would rank Georgia themselves, and somehow it ended up being also the state of Georgia rankings for Rivals 24/7. Don't ask me how that happens. I don't know. I mean, I don't think anybody was sitting there looking at the Georgia board and saying that, but it mattered, if Georgia had offered them or not. But they would go about 14, 15 deep. Kirby's probably one like 7, 8. And I think that when you shrink, the less players you take when you're talking about, as long as you make the right decisions, the less players you take out of a big pool like that, the better your chances to have hit rates. And then what Georgia does is just they go across the country and take the next best player, and that's worked out well for them. Obviously, SEC championships. I mean, Georgia they don't miss as much as they did under Rick. Under Rick, they'd probably, if they got 15 and then they took the wrong ones, then everybody else, there's a lot of complaining. Not that they weren't winning games, but were they winning championships? Probably not. So there you go. But the good news for other schools is that pool, that tier is larger. And, I've always said it's not necessarily, it's great if you can go in there and beat Georgia on a kid they won't, because they do a great job. But there's too many players to say, well, these are the only ones that are going to help and get drafted and all that good stuff. And it's proven out. And so what South Carolina has to do is kind of be, one of the better in tier 2. And Combe I think is the type of prospect that fits in there. He's a high 3-star guy. Physical, safety, good player, good athlete, Marietta Kell. And then Kosi Barnes from Greensboro, Grimsville. This is an evaluation under the radar guy, 6'3" corner. Probably like Chris Hatfield, who they took in the last class out of the state of Georgia. But he's a North Carolina kid, so he's on the visit list as well. He's sort of a mystery. I think Carolina would be in good shape for him. With Combe, are they going to get him? I don't know. That's another one I think they're coming in kind of in the getting to know you all about you phase there. So, all right. So let's go back for a second. By the way, the Keenan Britt, the linebacker commit from Alabama, has been committed for a long time. He committed last summer. He is going to be on campus for his official as well. He does a good job helping recruit. So Keenan Britt is the linebacker in this class. And I think at linebacker, they'll wait and see they'll evaluate everything after the season and see if they need to hit the portal again. But I think with the youth at linebacker that they have, just about everybody can be back next year. Um, I I don't think numbers wise and they only play two at a time. It's a huge need, and so they're just probably just going to roll with Keenan Britt, right? If he sticks and stuff. Now, what happens if you have transfers out and stuff like that? Then maybe you look in the portal. If somebody in state ends up blowing up, you probably look at him and bring him in or whatnot. So, obviously, so there's 1, 2, 3, 6, 8. There's 9 scheduled official visitors as of now. Crystal Ball's in for 3 and 2 commits. So that's already half of this list that's either projected to go to Carolina or already committed to Carolina. Noah Clark started. I think if he has a great visit, that really helps Carolina. Maybe to push that over the top, but I think they are one of his top teams. So that's good. Combe, we'll see. Barnes, we'll see. Kamari Blair, offensive tackle from Tennessee. We certainly will see with him. He's, like I said, kind of I don't want to say a late riser because, good Lord, it's only the spring of his just finished spring of the junior year in high school. And used to be, this is just now when guys were getting ranked and discovered and stuff like that. But, he wasn't a guy that had a bunch of offers like last year. So Kamari Blair, who knows what will happen with him. So this going into this weekend, instead of the mystery of last week and going into this weekend, it's a little bit more, a lot of these guys are going to end up in garnet and black. And that's a good thing because a lot of them are highly regarded blue chip guys. Got to get that blue chip ratio up above 49.3%. Yeah. I looked at it too. And on that note, what stinks about that and why sometimes, I think you all know, I understand fans want to hear about the blue chip ratio. I think it's a good tool for media people to just talk about, it's really genius in a lot of ways, but it is the most Captain Obvious. There's no frills there. It's like flying Spirit Airlines. It's like there's nothing fancy about the blue chip ratio. It's basically like, okay, if 50% of your roster has 4 or 5-star guys on it, then you are a team that could win a national championship. There's like 16 of them every year, and it holds true. And it's accurate. So people talk about it. So we'll talk about it. But here's what stinks about this when it comes to South Carolina. It basically, and I haven't done like the total math, but here's how, because you're dealing with high 3 stars, low 4 stars. Why are those low 4 stars? Do they make that much of a difference? No. I think you look at it in the last 10 4 stars and the first 10 3 stars. I think the 3 stars actually outperform them. I've looked at it before in certain classes, and you're like, well, there's 7 of these 10 guys that were high 3 stars that were drafted. And then of these 10 4 stars, 8 hit the portal and you never heard from them again. 2 were okay, and that's it. So it's interesting. I kind of think it's because you kind of, when you get toward the end, I've done this before, it's like playing Keno. You just, but there's that line of demarcation. So does it mean that much? And so I'm looking at it. I landed on Travon Ball. All right, as a recruit. Now, Travon Ball, big, him, started a bunch as a true freshman at Carolina, 330-pound lineman from Pace Academy in Atlanta, was a 4-star the whole way through, was an Under Armour All-American, went to the Under Armour game and played well. Carolina beat Arkansas, and the great Sam Pittman owned him. Lots of other schools wanted him, Early commits, you kind of forget about him. He goes down there, plays well in the Under Armour game, and was sitting at about like a 90 and dropped to like an 88. And so if he was a 4-star, that probably puts Carolina over the top. So that's kind of the silliness, I think, of it when you put that much emphasis on it. I kind of interpret it because I think you can drive yourself crazy if you start looking player by player when it comes to the blue chip ratio. I think what you have to do is look at it for what it is, the overall stats, and then say to yourself, what does it mean? Well, it means your staff is winning recruiting battles. Basically, it doesn't mean you have more talent than everybody else. It doesn't mean that your roster is better than everybody else, especially today. It means that the qualifications for winning a national championship, you do qualify. But there's a lot more to the story. But I struggle with it because I don't want to trash the thing because people talk about it, and I like Bud Elliott who created it. I've known him for years. I think he's a smart guy. We don't always agree on everything. None of us do, but I have a lot of respect for him as a person, and he's part of our group at 24/7 Sports and all that. So, I'm not. I struggle because I'm like, well, this is a bunch of, if you really dig in. But I dig into. I like to dig in to go beyond just what's on the surface because I'm a recruiting guy, and I crunch the numbers and all that, and I get it. But for fans and stuff, it matters. So what I've landed on with that is what that means, because it is a fact most of the time, not all of the time, but most of the time, your 4 and 5 star guys, you're beating somebody on them. Every now and then you'll have a layup. A guy comes out and you're like, oh, he's got Wake Forest, and so it's Wake in Carolina. You flip him, but he's a 4-star prospect because he balls out at an all-star game or has a great season or something. So it's not always that way, but 90% of the time it is. So what that means is your staff is basically winning recruiting battles on the high school level. Portal is a little bit different. Who did, because sometimes you don't beat anybody on a great player. Sometimes you beat a lot of teams on a bad player in the portal. But so I think that's kind of the better way to look at it. So in conclusion, kind of a shorter episode of Coffee this morning. In conclusion here, this group coming in and the group last week, and of the 26 visitors, 19 are 4 or 5 star guys right now. Then it could definitely punch that over 50% and make everybody happy. All right, don't forget Inside the Gamecocks, the morning show coming up with Morgs and JB on a wide open Wednesday. Also, Smorgasbord with Alex Jones is today on the show with Mad Dog and myself. Please mark your calendars down for that June 21st wing eating contest at CB18 as well. And again, if you have a small business or any kind of business or just want to throw some sponsorship cash to it, email me, jcshurburtt@gmail.com, and I'll get you in touch with the folks that can help you with that. All right, this has been Coffee. Wide open Wednesday, folks. It's here. Holla.